How low can you go? Can you go down low? How low can you go, Indiana Fever? Jeez, you guys have just turned this organization into a flat out joke. All of a sudden, Sophie Cunningham is hurt. All of a sudden, her elbow's messed up. Y'all smell that? Smells like BS. It smells like some punishment is being served out to Sophie Cunningham for going rogue.
Behind closed doors, however, that intense loyalty was reportedly creating major conflict with the coaching staff. Sources have suggested Stephanie White believed Sophie's behavior was becoming uncontrollable and that her emotional reactions, technical fouls, and aggressive defense of Clark were distracting from the team's structure. Coaches allegedly wanted discipline, organization, and complete authority over how players responded on the court. Sophie, meanwhile, appeared focused on protecting her point guard, and that difference in priorities reportedly pushed the organization toward one of the darkest moments in recent Fever history. Insiders described the atmosphere at Indiana's practice facility on the morning of the alleged suspension as painfully cold, with tension hanging over the building before most players even arrived. According to emotional accounts that later surfaced, White summoned Cunningham into the front office for an unexpected private meeting. There were reportedly no teammates present, no advance warning, and no opportunity for Sophie to prepare for what she was about to hear. The coach allegedly told her that her conduct was damaging the image and focus of the team. Even though many fans believed Cunningham's toughness was one of the main reasons Clark could survive the constant physical pressure, Sophie was supposedly instructed to gather her belongings and step away. Reports described the punishment as a private, indefinite suspension, with officials allegedly planning to tell the media she was absent because of a personal issue, thereby limiting public outrage. Think about how crushing that would feel, buddy. Imagine sacrificing your body, career, and reputation to defend a teammate, only to be quietly removed by the very organization you were fighting for. Witnesses claim Sophie left the meeting with tears forming in her eyes and began clearing her locker before the rest of the team arrived. She reportedly refused to create a scene because she did not want to damage the locker room further. Just as she had absorbed hits and criticism on the court, she allegedly accepted the punishment in silence, walking away heartbroken while believing the people she protected might never learn the real reason she disappeared.
This is ridiculous. Look at the first comment, Evelyn. You guys are a clown organization. Here it says, Sophie hurt her elbow writing this for Stephanie White, didn't she? This is what Sophie Cunningham had. I will not pass to Caitlin again. I will not pass to Caitlin Clark again. This is what they forced Sophie Cunningham to do. Okay, that's how she hurt her elbow. CDS Sports, go rogue, win game, end up on injury report. Beatings will continue until morale improves. This is ridiculous, guys. This is ridiculous. Everybody knows this is clearly punishment for Sophie Cunningham. Chloe Peterson was the first to report on it. She said, Sophie Cunningham is questionable with a right elbow injury for tomorrow's game. She participated in the portion of practice open to the media this morning. Okay. And everybody knows every comment is that this is punishment. Look here, Sophie being put in timeout for speaking what's on her mind. Okay.
But the coaching staff allegedly made one enormous and irreversible miscalculation. They failed to understand just how powerful the relationship between the team's enforcer and its superstar had become. When Caitlin Clark reportedly entered the arena and noticed Sophie's locker had been emptied, the mood inside the entire facility changed instantly. According to the story, a locker room employee quietly explained the suspension to Clark, and within seconds, the MVP candidate erupted. This was not ordinary disappointment or frustration. It was described as a combination of heartbreak, anger, and betrayal. Clark allegedly understood immediately that the teammate who consistently defended her had been sacrificed to protect the organization's public image. Reports claim she never even began preparing for practice. Instead of putting on her shoes or speaking with teammates, she walked past the assistant coaches and headed directly toward Stephanie White's office with a level of fury those around her had never witnessed. When Clark opened the door, people standing in the hallway reportedly heard one of the most emotional confrontations the organization had ever experienced. She allegedly reminded White that Sophie had absorbed every hit meant for her and had repeatedly stepped forward whenever opponents attempted to intimidate or injure her. Clark reportedly made it clear that she would not quietly accept the removal of the one teammate who had consistently protected her. White allegedly responded by explaining that the suspension came from organizational leadership and was intended to restore focus and control. Clark, however, supposedly rejected that explanation entirely. She saw the decision as a betrayal, understood the enormous influence she possessed, and decided to use every bit of it. According to the leaked account, Clark leaned across the desk, stared directly at her coach, and delivered the sentence that could shake the entire WNBA: reverse the suspension immediately, or she would leave alongside Sophie. If Cunningham was forced out, Clark would refuse to remain. The impact of that ultimatum was reportedly immediate. News of the confrontation allegedly reached league officials within minutes, throwing the commissioner's office into emergency mode as executives realized the biggest star in women's basketball might be prepared to walk away from the season.
This organization is like the mafia. So everyone knows, it's clear as day that this is punishment for Sophie Cunningham. It's very, very, very obvious that this is punishment for Sophie Cunningham. The organization is a straight up clown show at this point. And then not only that, they have not addressed the smear campaign. They've gone out of their way to address any and everything else. They refuse to address the smear campaign led by Dan Dockich, who has been adamant about he's getting this information from the inside. Not only have they not addressed that, and he doubled down on it today. Dan Dockich was bombing again today. Stephanie White went on the same platform that took shots at Caitlin Clark and aired a hit piece. This is crazy. All of this is just flat out craziness. This Indiana Fever organization is a flat out joke. Sophie Cunningham is being punished for going rogue with Caitlin Clark, passing her the ball. You know they wanted that ball to go to Kelsey Mitchell. They didn't give a damn. That ball go to Kelsey Mitchell or come hell or high water. And that is what it is.
Now consider the financial reality, buddy. League officials understand exactly what is driving the WNBA's recent growth. The packed buildings, rising television audiences, merchandise demand, and unprecedented attention surrounding Indiana are heavily connected to Caitlin Clark and the energy generated by the Fever. If Clark refuses to take the court in protest over Sophie Cunningham's alleged suspension, the damage could be enormous. Commentators and marketing observers have warned that the league cannot afford a public conflict involving its most valuable attraction. Some projections claim nearly half of the WNBA's current audience could lose interest if Clark walks away because millions of viewers are following the league specifically to watch her. Her supporters are intensely loyal, and social media has already become filled with fans demanding fair treatment for Cunningham while applauding the idea that Clark would stand beside her teammate. According to these reports, the commissioner is furious that Stephanie White and the Fever allowed the disagreement to reach such a dangerous point. Emergency discussions are allegedly taking place. Public relations teams are attempting to control the narrative, and the stability of the entire season may now depend on what Indiana decides next. Will White reverse the reported suspension and bring Sophie back? Will Clark genuinely abandon a potentially historic campaign to defend the teammate who protected her? We could be watching a complete rebellion unfold within the Fever organization. At this stage, the controversy has moved beyond basketball strategy, wins, and statistics. It has become a test of family, trust, loyalty, and whether an athlete should stand up for someone who repeatedly sacrificed herself on her behalf.
Ridiculous. Isn't it obvious? Isn't it obvious that Dan Dockich is not lying about the information he's getting from within this organization as they refuse to address it? Dan Dockich doubled down on everything he said right here in this. He took the X. Yo, G, damn it, hold on. Steph White is calling. Gotta go to work. Keep hating. Keep stalking. So he's taking shots at the people that have been addressing him, adding on to the smear campaign that's going on against Caitlin Clark. It's ridiculous, but the fact of the matter is you can't blame Dan Dockich. You can't blame him. He's not lying about where he's getting the information from, which is why the Indiana Fever is so hush and damn quiet about it. He's not lying. None of them are going to come out and call him a liar. None of them have stepped up to the plate to address the smear campaign that's being launched at Caitlin Clark. She's being targeted. They're not saying anything because it's coming from them. They've gone on to address everything else, whether it's people coming at them for the draft. Lynn Dunn went and called us all complainers. Stephanie White addressing the fans saying, hey, these games are boring as hell now. These games are boring. The product stinks now. You've come over here and ruined the product. The games are entertaining. She addressed that in last game's pregame podium. They've addressed everything. The Indiana Fever's Twitter handle or X handle put a post up after last game saying, are you not entertained? They've been addressing everything publicly but this because they are in on it. Make no mistake about that. Make no mistake about that at all. And then Stephanie White, shout out to Mick Talks Hoops.
I would strongly encourage everyone to listen closely to Cheryl Reeves' comments, because they were remarkably thoughtful and deserve serious attention.
This is gross.
Well, we see Cheryl Reeve wearing a shirt today in support of trans kids. Trans kids belong on the shirt. Just in the aftermath of Sophie Cunningham's recent comments, we actually saw Cheryl and Sophie speaking at center court pregame. And yesterday, Cheryl Reeves spent a lot of time talking at length with the media about this topic.
Now I need to hear directly from you, because fans across the internet are completely split over this situation. Would Caitlin Clark be justified in putting her entire season at risk to defend Sophie Cunningham? Or would Stephanie White have the authority to suspend a player whose aggressive approach she believed was hurting the team? Share your honest, completely unfiltered opinion in the comments right now. Hit the like button if you believe loyalty between teammates still matters. And send this video to every basketball fan who needs to understand what is reportedly happening inside Indiana. Subscribe so you do not miss the next development in this explosive locker room controversy. I will see you in the next video, buddy.
Easy to find online.
I would encourage anybody to go see Cheryl Reeves' comments. By the way, Sophie did not look like she backed down from Cheryl Reeve. I've got more coming on all of this. This is right here. Sophie Cunningham, by the way, took a ugly elbow in this game, and the refs called the foul against her. Let's just look at this. Bam! Hit her right in the jaw. And the refs, nah, they swallowed their whistles. I'd love to know why. Lynx defeated the Fever 108-100. And you could see the deficiencies in this team showed out. The bench is not deep enough. There's not enough length on this team. Again, we were saying that as free agency was going on. And then the draft, when it really blew up, and they took Raven Johnson instead of a big. And they got rid of Justine Passat. It felt like the Fever never had a chance in this game. And I was looking at the starting five for the Lynx. We got to realize they've been...
Buddy, sit down and prepare yourself, because behind the scenes, the WNBA may be dealing with one of the most devastating and emotional crises the league has ever faced. Far away from the cameras, packed arenas, and roaring fans, reports claim the Indiana Fever locker room has been torn apart. What is allegedly happening inside that organization could trigger an emotional collapse with consequences stretching across the entire league. And some observers believe a massive portion of the WNBA audience could disappear if officials fail to control the situation. You may have assumed this season was only about historic numbers, dominant performances, and shattered records, but this story goes much deeper. It is about loyalty, betrayal, protection, and one player potentially risking everything for the teammate who defended her. Explosive reports circulating online claim coach Stephanie White secretly handed Sophie Cunningham, the emotional heartbeat of Indiana's defense, a devastating suspension. But before the situation could allegedly be hidden from the public, Caitlin Clark, the league's biggest star, reportedly confronted the decision and delivered an ultimatum powerful enough to send panic through the entire WNBA. Stay with this story until the end, because we are examining the alleged tears, the betrayal, and the moment Clark supposedly looked directly at her coach and made her position unmistakably clear. If Sophie leaves, she leaves too. Subscribe, hit the like button, and let's break down exactly how this situation reportedly reached such an explosive point. To understand the reaction, you first have to recognize the powerful, mostly unspoken connection between Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. From the moment Clark entered the league, everyone understood she would carry an enormous target on her back. Veterans challenged her, opposing teams designed physical defensive schemes around stopping her, and hard contact became a regular part of nearly every game. Clark needed someone willing to protect her, someone prepared to absorb criticism, accept punishment, and place her own body and reputation at risk so the franchise star could continue performing. Sophie Cunningham became that person. Whenever an opponent delivered a questionable hit or attempted to intimidate Clark, Sophie was usually among the first teammates to respond. She accepted technical fouls, endured physical punishment, faced hostility from opposing crowds, including the vicious reception in Portland, and rarely backed away. To much of the league, Sophie willingly became the villain, But inside Indiana, she became the teammate prepared to defend Clark no matter the personal cost.